We're going through chapter 12 today, as I said. So, I've got my three sections, as usual. Section 1 is verses 1 through 6, Jephthah and the Ephraimites. So we'll read through that, and then we'll tackle all the details and go through. So, verse 1 through 6, And the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together, went northward, said unto Jephthah, Wherefore passedst thou over to fight against the children of Ammon? And didst thou not call us to go with thee? We will burn thine house upon thee with fire. And Jephthah said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon. And when I called you, ye delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that ye delivered me not, I put my life in my hands and passed over against the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivered them into my hand. Wherefore then are ye come up unto me this day to fight against me? Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead, and fought with Ephraim, and the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, Ye Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim, among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And the Gileadites took the passage of Jordan before the Ephraimites, and it was so that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, Let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto them, Art thou an Ephraimite? And they say, Nay. Verse 6, Then say they unto them, Now say Shibboleth. And he said Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. And then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan. Pretty brutal. And there fell at the time of the Ephraimites 42,000. So when you said you were going to ask questions, you got a question now, okay? It was a good one. So, okay, so we're going to start right at the very first. Verse 1, the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephthah, What's just happened, by the way? Can anyone remember what happened last week? Who did Jephthah destroy and win a victory over?
Wait, I thought you were asking about the vow.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
Let me see.
Moab. Right?
It was the Ammonites.
Yeah, he wrecked the Ammonites.
He wrecked the Ammonites. That's what the Bible says. He wrecked the Ammonites. He made the vow.
Yeah, he made the vow. He wrecked the Ammonites, and then now he's in conflict with
Ephraimites, children of Ephraim. So we have the children of Ephraim gathering themselves together, okay? So this is kind of a weird word. Gather in Hebrew isn't like they gather together like we've got together now to study the Bible. It's almost like they were summoned together. So instead of it being like a free will gathering, it's almost like, no, we need to gather now. Like get everyone together, bring them together now so we can go do something. So they gather together, they go northward, crossing the Jordan. Their route from Ephraim was in a northeastern direction towards Mizpah. Can you remember what Mizpah was last week? Oh, let's sing songs.
Oh, it's a place where the people the Ammonites passed from.
Okay, and it had a specific meaning. Mizpah was where an old covenant was made, a promise was made, and it meant watchtower, the watching place. So the idea of like they're heading towards a place where God watched over. We can see in this passage in verse 1 here that there was a new type of behavior from the Ephraimites, jealousy. Jealousy was creeping up. It was rash, it was over the top. They wanted glory, they wanted credit, but they had not shared in the victory that Jephthah had done. When he asked them to step in, they said, well, no, we're not going to do that. So, there's questions asked. Why did you pass? Did you cross over to fight against the people of Ammon and not call us to go with you? Obviously, this is in King James speak. Wherefore passedst thou over to fight against the children of Ammon and didst not call us to go with them? Why did you fight them and not tell us to come? Why didn't you invite us to the fight, basically? Ephraim probably felt slighted, like left out by Jephthah, and were angry that they did not have a role in the victorious battle over the Ammonites. We touched on this a couple of chapters ago about kind of when we're not invited to do something, we're still part of the plan if you're trying to follow God. Like God's still got a purpose for you, right? But there's a tendency within all of us that we want to do a job if we get credit for doing the job. If I get pointed out like this guy's the guy who did it all, I'll happily do the job. And that's not the right heart. The right heart is to do it whether we get credit or not. It's to do it for God, okay? So the people of the tribe of Ephraim were more concerned with getting the credit than doing the actual job itself. When you think about Ephraim, Can you remember what they said, what their response to Gideon was? When Gideon came up and said, hey, we need, feed my people, we need help, we need to be looked after, we're on this battle, what did they say?
They were like, bring the heads of
Yeah.
the leaders and then we'll get you bread.
Yeah, do the job, come back, and then show us that you finished it, then we'll give you bread. It's kind of like finish the job, then come back. So that's Judges 8, 1 through 3. Gideon answered the complaining men of Ephraim with tact and diplomacy and tried to talk them through this. Jephthah was a very different type of man, okay? And then they have this incredible threat. You didn't invite us to the fight? And he's like, no, I didn't invite you to the fight. And he's like, well, you didn't join us to the fight? Okay, fine. We're going to burn your house down. A little aggressive. A little aggressive. We jump from you want to be part of the fight to now I'm going to burn your house to the ground. People of Ephraim backed up their anger with a threat. They threatened to burn down Jephthah's house with him in it. We're angry. You didn't include us, so because of that, we're going to burn your house to the ground. Really rational people, right? They make sense. Is that how we're going to act now? No, you shouldn't act like that, Joshua. Okay. Stop threatening people to burn people's houses now. But then verses 2 and 3, Jephthah responds to the tribe of Ephraim, okay? Jephthah said unto them, when I called you, you didn't answer. You didn't help, right? God delivered them. God delivered them to my hand. Jephthah's idea is clear here. God won the victory for them. It wasn't through Jephthah's strength. It wasn't through his Gileadite army with him. It was God. The Ephraimites wanted to be part of that glory, but they didn't want to be doing the messy work. They wanted the credit where it was due, like instead of doing the work. So he pointed out basically the unjust character of this complaint. Like, you were asked, you said no. So we went and we fought and God brought the victory. So when I called you, you did not deliver me. The people of Ephraim here seem to be complainers. They're complainers. When they had a chance to step out boldly for God, they did not do it. Yet when the work was done and God's glorified, they complained that they didn't get to take part. That's kind of funny, right? When someone sees how successful something is and they go, I really wish I jumped on the bandwagon before. If God's asked you to do something, do it. Don't just sit in the back and then complain when you don't do it and don't get the glory for it or don't get the credit for it or even don't get the thanks for it in that way. And then you have this phrase that Jephthah says, okay? And he says, I put my life in my hands. Anyone got any ideas of what that means? I put my life in my hands. It's verse 3. And when I saw that ye delivered me not, I put my life in my hands. What does that sound like? Anyone got any ideas? Any thoughts? What are you thinking for us?
Like, I think that he was willing to, like, let those guys protect him, but then in the end, it was up to him to protect himself and his people.
Like he asked for help, right?
Yeah.
So they don't turn up, so what's he saying there?
He's like, I gotta do it myself.
Gotta do it myself. And this is a funny thing. So I looked at this phrase. This was a common phrase in the East back then for when a duty came up to fight in a battle. And someone was willing to go, but they had to make the decision themselves. They would say, I'm going to take my life into my own hands, and I will go. Basically, I'm making the decision here to go and do. So it wasn't like it was a strange phrase back then. Like to us, we're like, oh, he's willing to take on the whole army on his own. Really what he's saying is, I'm willing to fulfill the duty that's ahead of me. It's a good honorable thing to think about. So Jephthah did this. He fought the Ammonites with the Gileadites, and victory came through the Lord. And the Ephraimites really had no ground to be upset. The war was done. The danger was taken care of. They didn't have to do any work. And now they're not in danger, but they're still complaining that they don't get the credit. It's kind of funny, right? Verses 4 to 6, the Gileadites led by Jephthah overwhelm the people of the tribe of Ephraim. So we can see from this conversation, there's a gathering of Ephraimites going towards Jephthah. How dare you leave us out of this battle? Now there's a gathering in verse 4. Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead, and they go and fight Ephraim. So it's like, okay, you've got your guys, I want to get my guys, let's just see what happens. Well, spoiler alert, Jephthah wins. So the men of Gilead defeated the tribe of Ephraim, okay? It says in verse 4, Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim, and the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, ye Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim, among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. So, basically what we're reading here is that the Ephraimites are really good at complaining, terrible at fighting. That's kind of what I get from it. You know? They couldn't back up what they were saying. They wanted the credit, but they didn't want to do the work. And when it came to actually fighting for it, they got their butts whooped. You know? So, they got conquered by the Gileadites. And they said, and there's this phrase that gets thrown out here, okay? In verse 6. And they said unto him, say now Shibboleth. Shibboleth. Can you say Shibboleth? Okay. So they would go to him and basically say like, hey, where are you from? Where are you from? And they'd be like, oh, we're from Gilead. We're one of you. It's like, oh, you are? Say this word. Say this word for me and I'll understand where you're from. You know? Kind of like aluminium. You guys say aluminium. Aluminum, because you're wrong, right? But it's that thing of like, that's how you're going to work out where you're from. English, correct, right? So, but the shibboleth, it was like this one phrase that they could pinpoint and be like, you're saying that weird. You're not from around here. Okay? So, shibboleth means flowing stream, moving water, or it means ear of grain. One of those two different meanings, okay? But with this word, the people from the tribe of Ephraim were easily identified by the way that they spoke, by their dialect. It's kind of funny, right? They had a hard time pronouncing the H in shibboleth and said Sibboleth instead. That means they gave themselves away. Where are you from again? I'm one of you guys. You know, I live a couple of streets away from you. Greg, right? No, that's not my name. Doesn't matter. Say this word. Sibboleth. You get him. And they'd get him. And they'd take him away and they'd kill him, right? So in the World War, Second World War, German soldiers identified Russian Jews by doing this as well, okay? They would pronounce the word for corn, kukuruza, and they would say this word, kukuruza. And if they said it with the right phrasing, dialect, okay, you're Russian. But with Russian Jews, it was a little bit different. So they're able to find out and work out the distinct pronunciation of the Russian Jews revealed their ethnic background. So that was the same for the men of Ephraim here as well, okay? Also, fast forward to Matthew 26:73. And it says this, and a while came unto him that they that stood by and said to Peter, surely thou also art one of them, for thy speech bewrayeth thee. Your speech has caught you out. Matthew 26:73. Peter, the way he spoke, the way who he'd been hanging around, right? You know, I don't have as much of an English accent anymore because I've been hanging around with Americans, but I still say certain things differently. That was the same thing of Peter. That was the same thing as all the disciples. They've all been hanging around with each other. There must have been a good blend of people from different backgrounds, different accents, different dialects, different phrases, but actually, you can still tell them apart. And when you know, Jesus is in being judged, and the cockerel's crowing, they're going, who are you again? Are you one of those disciples? No, I'm not. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I saw you with him. Your speech is letting you down here. The way you talk is letting you down. So, we see this throughout history. We see this through the Bible. The term shibboleth caught these guys out, okay? It came into the English language, this term shibboleth, as something which determines which side you are on. Basically, in modern English, using shibboleth is the same as using an acid test. Where do you sit? Where are you on this side of the fence, that side of the fence? Where are you from? All these different things. Think about this. Today, there are certain shibboleths in people's vocabulary. Judges 12:6, you can know something about a person by the way they say it, okay? But today, we can know by how people talk about Jesus. We can know if they just say, my buddy Christ, my friend Jesus. And you go, just a friend? Just a buddy? Just a pal? And you get those guys who are kind of creepy. They're like, Papa God, Daddy God. And you're like, ugh, I don't want to, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. That tells me something about you, all right? It's weird. You can laugh, it's okay. I don't like it. But the way that people say stuff tells you a lot about what they believe. It does. It's not even just about where they're from. It's about who they are. It's about what they believe. You can listen as they speak about the Bible, and you can know something about them. Do they believe it's true? Are they convincing in what they're teaching because they truly believe it? Or are they teaching it as a fairy tale? Or just a tall tale that you can entertain people with? It tells you a lot by how people speak, right? It's also true that as much as our dialect gives us away, so does our everyday speech, what we talk about. Others should be able to tell that we're Christians by the way that we talk. The Ephraimites got caught out by the way they talked, right? We should get caught out by the way that we talk as Christians. We can see how people view the world, how they understand Jesus, the Bible, politics, by how they speak, what they focus on in their speech. You can tell a lot by the gospel that someone believes in and what they're focusing on in that as well. We should be truly thankful for the fact that we do not need to worry about our salvation because of how we speak. Just because of a word is pronounced wrongly, right? God forgives, God is good. Trusting in salvation is not proved by our speaking abilities, but rather the accomplishment and victory that Jesus went through on the cross. That's the big difference here. But it's funny, because this battle goes on. Jephthah comes home, makes that foolish vow that we talked about last week. And he's however long it's been, the Ephraimites get frustrated. They get angry, they cause an uprising, they come to fight Jephthah to take credit. Jephthah fights back and then wipes them all out. What does it say in the end of verse 6? And there fell at the time of the Ephraimites 42,000. 42,000 people, just like that. They knew what they were doing. Ephraimites did not know what they were doing. Which gets us through to our second section, which is the shortest section I think I've ever done, which is one verse, Jephthah's remaining time as a judge, verse 7, okay? And Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then died Jephthah the Gileadite and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. Okay, so the whole time he judged for was how long? 6 years. He did quite a lot in 6 years, right? Did all right. Did some stupid things, but did all right. When he passed, he was buried in one of the cities of his family line, which is good. But after 6 years, the man of valor died, which leads us to these minor kind of judges that follow him that don't have much written about them. Okay, it's funny because we've been talking about Jephthah for 2 verses now, I think. 2 chapters. And before that, we can jump back to this and we can see in this side here, if you guys get a chance to look at this, just how long we stick on different judges for. Deborah was 4 and 5, Gideon was 6 to 8, Jephthah was 10 to 12, but you have these gaps in between where we find these minor judges all the way through, kind of scattered. And we have these guys that are like, oh, and he battled and he killed 90,000 people, and you go, no more details? No more details about what happened there? And it's like, and then this guy, he was really handsome. You know, that's what he was known as a judge? Are you kidding me? He judged for 3 years and he was just handsome? So now you get these minor judges that are coming up in a second, and a couple of them are known for not much. And the other one's known for donkeys. Just saying. So I'm just reading as it is. You can judge them as much as they judged, but it's one of those things of it's just a funny way to think about this, because the Bible doesn't leave out the bad parts. The Bible doesn't leave out small details that you don't really think are necessary. Why do we need to learn about these people? Because they're true people. They're real people. There was a record put in place about them judging Israel for that time. That's why it's important to know about them. Okay? It's tough because you can look at it and you go there's not much else to learn about this, but that's the reason why we're going to touch them. They're in the Bible. It's worth talking about. Okay? So section 3, 8 through 15. 3 minor judges, okay? So Jephthah's died, And after him, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. And he had 30 sons and 30 daughters, whom he sent abroad, and took in 30 daughters from abroad for his sons. And he judged Israel 7 years. Then died Ibzan and was buried at Bethlehem. And after him, Elon, a Zebulunite, judged Israel. And he judged Israel 10 years. So we've had 17 years right here with just these two guys in two verses. Okay? And Elon, the Zebulunite, died and was buried in Ajalon in the country of Zebulun. And after him, Abdon, the son of Hillel, a Pirathonite, judged Israel. And he had 40 sons and 30 nephews, who rode on 70 ass colts. And he judged Israel 8 years. So we've got 25 years now. Laughing at ass, that's good. And Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, died and was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim in the mount of the Amalekites. 8 through 10 is Ibzan the judge, okay? So we have Ibzan of Bethlehem, okay? He judged Israel, and he had 30 sons, 30 daughters, whom he sent abroad, took in 30 daughters from abroad for his sons, and he judged Israel 7 years. He died and was buried in Bethlehem. This does not seem, here's a funny thing, this does not seem to be the same city that was called the house of bread that David, son of Jesse, would later make famous, okay? A different Bethlehem. So Bethlehem is not to be identified with the Bethlehem in Judah, which is usually written as Bethlehem, Judah. The likelihood is this is Bethlehem, the town in western Zebulun, about 10 miles north of Megiddo. And Scott's touched on this a couple of times, but basically you can find that in Joshua 19, 15 and 16. Can anyone remember what Megiddo meant? What is it standing for? Big meteorite coming towards Earth. Bruce Willis trying to stop it.
Armageddon?
Yeah, Armageddon. There it is.
I didn't get
It's
that.
a good movie.
Before your time.
Yeah,
Bruce Willis. So he had 30 sons and 30 daughters, okay? Ibzan seemed to be pretty good at making alliances through marriage. That's kind of what's happening here, okay? He's sending his children away to get married and gaining children back through marriage. Like he'd send out people and get them back again, and was wealthy, prestigious enough to have so many children and so many alliances through marriage. That's kind of basically all that I could find about him. Dude sent his children off to make alliances, got rich from it, and his family were good. Okay, and then he died.
How did he have time to judge?
With that many birthday parties? I don't know. So, with that many donkeys to it. No, different, no, sorry. Verses 11 to 12, we get to Elon the judge. So after him, Elon the judge, a Zebulunite, judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. And Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried in Ajalon in the country of Zebulun. Okay. Nothing else said about him. He was there, he judged, he died. Great. Like he was from Zebulun. That's all. So he was next in a succession of briefly reigning judges, so minor judges again. He's from a different tribe. Are you guys picking up on this? They're not all from the same tribe. Okay? He also didn't create Tesla's, Grace. Alright? Like, come on. So, but think about this for a second. God called leaders from different backgrounds, different tribes, instead of just one tribe. So verses 13 to 15, the judge Abdon, okay? After him, Abdon, the son of Hillel, a Pirathonite, judged Israel, and he had 40 sons and 30 nephews that rode on 70 ass colts, and he judged Israel 8 years. And Abdon, the son of Hillel, the Pirathonite, died and was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim in the mount of the Amalekites. Okay, I was really, really hoping that he was going to be like from a family line of pirates with a name like that. And I was like, Pirathonites? I was like, no, it is not. But so I was completely sad about that situation. And then I was like, half pirates, half pythons. Didn't work out, so there you go. So he had 40 sons, 30 grandsons who rode on 70 young donkeys. What did that mean about him?
He was rich.
He was rich. He was rich, so rich that he could buy 70 young donkeys and demonstrated his wealth, his prestige in this brief judging reign, basically, okay? Side note for you, Pirathon was the birthplace of David's captain when he had his mighty men, Benaiah. So 2 Samuel 23:30, you can look at that, or 1 Chronicles 11:31, which talks about kind of where he's from there, okay? And then he gets buried. He has a lot of money. He has a lot of money and has a big family, has lots of donkeys, and then he dies. And he gets buried in the mountain of the Amalekites. These are the same Amalekites that God had put a curse on for their treatment of the weakest and most vulnerable in the wilderness when Israel were wandering in the wilderness. So Exodus 17, 8 through 13, Deuteronomy 25, 17, 19, and 1 Samuel 15, 2 and 3. Amon did not have much written about him, but out of the 3 minor prophets, he had the most. When the exact location of the town that he was born in, Pirathon, people don't know where that is. Like, it's kind of a lost place now. The only other place that I can really see Pirathon being mentioned in, I've already kind of mentioned it before, was 1 Chronicles 27:14, describing Benaiah the Pirathonite of the children of Ephraim. So it's kind of funny when we think about, like, why are these things in the Bible? Like, what's the point of having these 3 random people in there? Well, it's important because we need to know that God still put someone in charge. There's still someone judging over Israel. When these big players stepped back and died, you had people stepping in instead. So that is chapter 12. That's what I got out of it. I've got 3 final thoughts for you here. The first one is, how do you speak? How do you speak? Like, how do you act around people? What are you talking about? How's your language? Does it change when you're around different people? When you're around certain people, do you curse more? Do you put on an accent? Do you try to rap? I don't know. How do you speak? Grace, trying to rap. But also, why does this matter? Why does it matter about how you speak? Faraz, why does it matter?
It shows like who you are on the inside as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And if you turn around and say, hey, I'm a Christian, and they go, you're a Christian? Didn't I hear you just cursing like a sailor last week? That's a phrase in England. I don't know if that's a phrase over here or not.
I think it is a phrase.
Yeah, I think it is a
very
Good. Stop cursing like a sailor. If you're a Christian, you shouldn't be doing that, right?
I'm not cool enough to do that.
You're not cool enough. But the whole point is, like, we should be able to tell the difference, right, between believers and non-believers, and I think that's the key part, right? Second thought right here, the Lord delivers. Who won the battle? God. Who conquered Ephraim? God. Who saved the people of Israel? God. The Lord delivers. When Ephraim came up and rose up against Jephthah and tried to take over him, his whole thing was, God delivered us. God won the battle. You won it for yourself. God won it for him, for his glory. Why we want things, how we speak, what we're clinging to here, tells people a lot about us. Tells them who we are, tells them what we believe, what we're standing for. These are key parts. Your life is a testimony to everyone around you. And that sounds like a lot of pressure, because it is. Because it really is. Because non-Christians could be watching you and they go, wow, how he acts here is not the same here. How she acts here is not the same here. And you kind of look at it and you go like, are you consistent across the board? That's a real tough thing to do. And it takes a lot of strength. It really does. But if you can get that, and you can be the same person in every single place, you're going to realize that life gets a lot easier. I used to try and box things up differently and have my school life and my personal life, have my friends outside of college, and have my family life. And I'd be a different person. And then I added church in there as well, and it was like 5 different boxes. And I tried to be different people in all of them. Until I started acting like this guy and this one and this one and this one. And you go like, hold on a second, this is really confusing. Try to just be the same person. Try to be the same person worshiping God, following God in all those different places. And see what happens to the testimony as well. Third one, our salvation is not based on how we speak, but it's on who we speak to. Our salvation is because of Jesus Christ. It's not because of our dialect. It's not because of a stutter or, anything like that. It's because of what Jesus did on the cross. If we start thinking it's all because of who we are, that's not the right reasons. That's never been the right reason. Jesus Christ is the only reason why we have any type of salvation in this world. Okay? The fact that we can get to call heaven our home is because Jesus died on the cross. Not because of who we are, not because of how bold we are, not because of our vocabularies. Nothing like that. So I want you to think about that. Think about why you believe you're saved. Is it because of who you are and how you act? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. All because of Jesus. How you're speaking, who you're talking to, how are you talking to people? How is that reflecting to people? And how is that communicating Jesus to people? Those are my 3 points for you today. That's Judges chapter 12,